He turned a VCR into a $110,000 jackpot, and the producers couldn't do a damn thing. This is the story of Michael Larson, who became well known for a huge win on the game show Press Your Luck. But this wasn't just luck. Larson had uncovered a flaw in the game's system, using nothing but his trusty VCR and a sharp eye. What he did next left the show's producers scrambling and changed game show history forever. Join us at Days Gone By as we dive into his broke-ass life, how he cracked the board's patterns with VHS, the wild episode where he won 45 spins, and CBS freaking out afterward. Let's get started. The story of Michael is a true example of going from grass to grace. Who would have thought that an unemployed Ohio man who spent nearly 12 years driving an ice cream truck would become a contestant who made American game show history? For starters, imagine a time when game show champions felt like legends for walking away with $40,000. Those were the big wins, the ones people talked about for years. But then along came Michael Larson, a man who didn't just want a win, he wanted to break the game. But before we dive into this incredible occurrence, or rather, let's call it a miracle, you'll be amazed to find out just how broke he really was before all this. Larson grew up in Lebanon and graduated from Lebanon High School in 1967. For many years, he drove a Mr. Softy ice cream truck and also worked as an air conditioner repairman at Chrysler Air Temp in Dayton. Despite these jobs, Larson rarely held steady employment and was known for his get-rich-quick schemes. Mr. Larson had an affinity for finding ways to make a lot of money fast, and he tended to behave a bit abnormally to boot. Before discovering and appearing on Press Your Luck, Larson was unemployed, adding to his financial struggles. He used his last bit of money to travel to Los Angeles for the show's audition. As we dive into the secret behind cracking the patterns with VHS, please remember to like and subscribe to be part of the Days Gone By family. Imagine calling in sick, sinking into your couch, and marathoning your favorite daytime game show. By hour 3, something strange clicks. You notice a pattern in the board's electronic formula. That can't be possible, right? But curiosity takes over, and you spend the next few hours obsessively testing your theory. Suddenly it hits you. You've cracked the show's secret winning formula. Sound like a movie plot twist? Well, it actually happened in 1984. Michael Larson pulled off this exact feat. Michael Larson had a talent for finding quick ways to make money, and he wasn't exactly conventional about it. At one point, he stacked multiple televisions in his living room, flipping through different channels all at once. His focus was on anything that offered a chance to make fast cash, especially game shows. Eventually, this obsession led him straight to CBS's Press Your Luck. If you've never seen Press Your Luck, here's how it worked. The show aired from 1983 to 1986 and featured 3 contestants. The centerpiece of the game was a giant board covered in flashing lights and prizes. Each player took turns hitting a button to stop the board, and whatever it landed on, they'd win. Maybe $500, maybe $1,000. Or sometimes bigger ticket items like a home gym. But the board also had whammies. If you landed on a whammy, you lost everything. When Press Your Luck premiered in September 1983, Michael was hooked. Watching the show quickly turned into a full-blown obsession. He became convinced that if he studied hard enough, he could find a way to beat the game. So he got to work, recording every episode on his VCR and playing them back frame by frame. He analyzed every flicker of the board's lights, searching for a pattern or mistake he could exploit. After weeks of staring at the screen, Michael had his breakthrough. He discovered that 2 squares, number 4 and number 8, never had whammies. These squares also offered prizes that kept getting better and granted an extra spin. Even better, Michael realized the board wasn't random at all. It followed 5 repeating patterns that were simple enough to memorize if you were dedicated enough. In other words, Michael had cracked the code. He could time the board's shifting patterns perfectly, ensuring he always landed on number 4 or number 8, the safest spots. It was like figuring out a casino slot machine's secret. Only this machine was on national television. With his strategy perfected, Michael decided it was time to put it to the test. In May 1984, he hopped on a Greyhound bus from Ohio to Los Angeles to audition for Press Your Luck. During the pre-audition interview, he told a heartfelt story about being an unemployed ice cream truck driver who couldn't afford a birthday present for his 6-year-old daughter. Winning on the show, he said, could give her the best birthday ever. The producers bought it. After a quick practice round, they told him he'd be on an upcoming episode. On the big day, Larson showed up early, dressed in a cheap thrift store suit. His confidence stood in stark contrast to his modest appearance. His competitors, Ed Long and Janine Littress, had no idea what they were up against. Larson's start wasn't promising. His first spin on the game board landed on a whammy, wiping out his winnings. He also missed several questions, ending up with just 3 spins, while Ed racked up 10. As the player with the fewest spins, Michael went first. Imagine the pressure. He'd spent 6 straight months obsessing over this game and endured an uncomfortable 5-day bus ride to get there. Everything hinged on this moment. And then, on his first spin, he hit a whammy. To this day, no one knows whether it was an accident or a clever ruse to throw everyone off. Either way, Michael wasn't fazed. He just laughed it off. On his next 2 spins, he landed on safe squares. At the end of round 1, he still trailed with $2,500, while Ed had $4,080, and Janie led with $4,608. When round 2 started, Michael did better. The trivia questions were easier, and he earned 7 spins. Still in last place, he went first, and that's where things got interesting. With just 4 spins remaining, Michael fell into what industry insiders still call one of the most absurd grooves in game show history. Over 31 consecutive spins, he consistently landed on squares number 4 and number 8. Remarkably, 20 of those spins yielded $1,000 or more. As Larson's streak continued, host Peter Tamarkin's reaction shifted from surprise, "We've never seen this happen, you're on a roll," to disbelief. "This is unreal," and finally to frustration. "You've got to be kidding me." When Larson's winnings soared past $30,000, Tamarkin urged him to stop, saying, "Michael, you really are pressing your luck." Then he warned, "After the show, you're going to get a special call from the president of CBS." After an incredible 40 successful spins and $102,851 in winnings, Larson decided to pass his final 3 spins to Ed Long, worried he might lose focus. Long hit a whammy on his first spin, wiping out his total. The spins then moved to Janine Littress, who also hit a whammy immediately. Hoping Larson would mess up, she passed the spins back to him, but he stayed sharp, winning another $4,750 and scoring a trip to the Bahamas. When the game finally ended, Larson stood victorious. He threw his arms up and let out a triumphant scream. His final haul was $104,950 in cash, a sailboat worth $1,015, and 2 all-inclusive trips. When Michael appeared on Press Your Luck in 1984, he achieved something no one else had managed before. He exploited the predictable patterns of the game board to win a record-breaking $110,237. This feat was not just impressive, it was also unprecedented and caught CBS off guard. The network's executives were stunned by Larson's consistent success, which seemed almost impossible given the game's design. As the episode unfolded, it became clear that Larson had done his homework, meticulously studying the show's patterns to avoid whammies and land on high-value squares. The control booth during the taping of Larson's episode was a scene of chaos. CBS executives were baffled by his ability to consistently hit the bonus box and avoid whammies. Michael Brockman, the head of CBS's daytime programming, described the situation as bedlam. He noted that something was very wrong, as Larson seemed to be hitting the bonus box every time. The tension in the control room was palpable, with producers and executives scrambling to understand how Larson was achieving such an improbable streak. Despite their initial suspicions of cheating, they could not immediately pinpoint any rule violations. Following the episode, CBS launched an investigation into Larson's win. The Network Standards and Practices Department suspected Larson of cheating and initially refused to pay him his winnings. However, after reviewing the footage and consulting the show's rulebook, they found no evidence of malfeasance. The legal department was also involved to assess whether Larson had violated any rules. Despite their suspicions, they could not disqualify him based on the existing rules. This led to a difficult decision. CBS had to pay Larson his winnings, even though they were not pleased with how he had achieved them. Eventually, CBS paid Larson his winnings, but he was ineligible to return to the show because he exceeded the network's limit of $25,000. This decision was more about limiting potential future losses than punishing Larson for his strategy. CBS also set a $75,000 ceiling for contestants' winnings to prevent similar exploits in the future. This move was part of a broader effort to ensure that no contestant could again manipulate the game in such a significant way. Despite the controversy, Larson's win was recognized as legitimate, and he received his prize money. To prevent similar exploits in the future, the big board was reprogrammed with additional patterns. CBS also made changes to the game's format to reduce the predictability of the board. These changes included increasing the number of whammies and adding more complexity to the patterns. The goal was to ensure that no contestant could again use Larson's strategy to win large sums of money. These changes were implemented quickly, reflecting CBS's desire to move past the incident and restore the game's integrity. The episode featuring Larson's win was aired in 2 parts, but was never re-aired or included in syndication packages due to CBS's desire to downplay the incident. Even after all that winning, Larson wasn't so lucky after all. When he walked away with $110,237,000 in cash and prizes, Larson had achieved more than any other daytime game show contestant at the time. His strategy of memorizing the supposedly random patterns on the game board became the stuff of legend. But while his television triumph seemed like the start of a bright new chapter, what followed was a series of poor decisions, personal struggles, and legal troubles that led to a life of financial instability and obscurity. After his win, Larson's first big mistake came with an ill-fated investment. Eager to grow his fortune, he poured a large chunk of his winnings into a real estate venture that turned out to be a Ponzi scheme. Within 2 years, he had lost everything. This bad investment not only drained his finances but left him deep in debt. For someone who had beaten the odds on national television, this misstep was a harsh reality check. In another strange twist, Larson tried his luck with a local radio contest that promised $30,000 to anyone who had a matching serial number on a dollar bill. He withdrew $100,000 in $1 bills, spending days scrutinizing these serial numbers. After finding no match, he redeposited about half of the money. But the other half, which he kept at a friend's house, was stolen during a Christmas party burglary. Losing $50,000 in this manner was a devastating blow. Larson's generosity also played a part in his downfall. He won a sailboat on Press Your Luck valued at $1,015. But instead of selling it or using it to improve his financial situation, he gave it to his son. With his winnings rapidly dwindling, decisions like this only sped up his financial ruin. After his financial losses, Larson found work as an assistant manager at several Walmart stores in Ohio. While this job provided some stability, it was a far cry from the fresh start he had imagined when he cashed in his game show winnings. The man who once outsmarted a game show and made headlines was now living a modest life, managing retail operations. His fall from grace was stark and painful, and his struggles didn't end there. In the mid-1990s, Larson's life took an even darker turn. He got involved in a fraudulent multi-level marketing scheme, which eventually led to legal trouble. When charges were filed against him in 1995, he fled, spending his last years as a fugitive. His health declined, he battled alcoholism, and he went through a divorce. Michael Larson died in 1999 from throat cancer in Apopka, Florida, far from the bright lights of Hollywood. But what is life? A question that is probably lingering in your mind after going through Larson's story. From poverty to filthy riches, and losing it all in the blink of an eye. Michael Larson was the only person smart enough to figure out Press Your Luck's weakness and brave enough to beat them at their own game. Best asked in the novel Leave the World Behind by Rumen Alm. Did you ever hear about the guy who beat the game show Press Your Luck? All he did was pay attention and learn that the whammy wasn't random at all. It always appeared in a certain sequence. That information was just there, but no one ever bothered to look for it. Larson's legacy is a reminder that intelligence and strategic thinking can achieve remarkable results, but these must be balanced with wisdom and responsible decision-making. What do you think is the most thought-provoking part of Michael Larson's story? Is it his incredible ability to outsmart the game, his financial missteps, or the tragic turn his life took afterward? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to Days Gone By for more fascinating stories from the forgotten American pop culture scandals. See you in the next video.